first pocket item. It's the appointment to the Bayfront Park Trust of a vacancy that I had as of yesterday. And this is my direct appointment from District 3. And this will be Frank J. Rodriguez.
Okay, I'm going to call this PI 5, Mr. Clerk. And it's a pocket appointment. Moved by Commissioner Carollo. Seconded by Commissioner Reyes. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
There you are, Commissioner.
Commissioner, how do you feel this afternoon?
A little bit of the same.
Don't stress yourself, okay? Take it easy.
Okay.
Okay? Take it
All
easy.
right.
We need you, so you take it easy, okay?
Yeah.
I have a pocket item, sir.
And listen, if you're going to go down for the count, turn it off. I don't want drama. See, I got you smiling. That's good.
He
That was the
doesn't
idea.
want to be a witness to it.
Commissioner Reyes, I'll call that PI 6.
PI 6, this pocket item, it is to do away with the limited 2 events per temporary event permits, those permits. And this is going to be only for COVID vaccination, using those places that I want to be testing and vaccination sites. And that is going to be only, it's going to be it's going to be also it's a pilot program. It's going to be for 1 year. And this is to that any location that we want to have a special place that we're going to be vaccinated. We don't have to. I mean, or they don't have to come for a special permit every so often. Okay.
I'm going to call that PI 6, vaccine TUP.
Okay.
And it's a 4/5 vote, Mr. Clerk. Is it 4/5 of the body or 4/5 of those present?
4/5 of the body, and you have
Well, we
Commissioner
have
Watson.
You have
right now.
Commissioner Watson. All right.
We have Watson now.
Chairman,
Yes.
may I please read the title just so because it's an ordinance?
I
So-
believe it's a resolution.
It's a resolution.
Resolution.
Wait. I believe the Madam City Attorney is correct. The title has an emergency ordinance. It looks as though, for whatever reason, the header shows resolution, which may be incorrect.
Well, can we change that to emergency resolution?
No, it has to be an ordinance.
To
That's
be an
why.
ordinance. Okay.
We can read it twice today. That's fine. Go
That's
ahead,
right.
Madam
Yeah,
City Attorney. Thank you.
I just wanted to read it so everybody out there is aware of what it is exactly, and
Yes.
then
Yes.
because it's an emergency ordinance that you'll be reading twice. I just wanted to be a little more specific about what we're doing, just in case we have public comment. Is that fine, Chairman?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Please read.
It's basically a revision to Chapter 62, Article 13, Section 526, in order to allow for zoning approvals for temporary uses and occupancies, establishing a pilot program to provide for automatic waiver of temporary events related to the novel coronavirus vaccination and testing sites. So I just wanted to.
Okay, are we going to vote on it, Mr.
We
Chairman?
can, if you'd like to make the motion.
Yes, I make a motion.
It was to allow for people to call in or public comment, and that's why I just wanted to say,
Would you like us to table the item for a while so people have a chance to call in if they'd like?
yes.
to? Okay, we'll hold the motion then. We'll go through some other items. We'll come back to this.
Okay.
If anyone who's watching has questions or doesn't fully understand or has an opinion about this emergency ordinance, to amend our temporary use permit to allow for vaccine sites to pop up on surface lots throughout the city, please call in. Where is it on what's the information for calling?
They can come in on the website and give the public comments on the public comment form.
Is it miamigov.com/virtual meeting?
Great memory.
I believe so. You can find all the instructions there to call in and make a comment. So we're going to table this, and please let me know if we do get any calls. We'll take it when someone calls in. Commissioners, would you like to just finish off the pocket item?
Yes, and the resolution on the Brothers to the Rescue planes that were shut down.
PI1.
Yeah, if you could read it, Madam City Attorney.
Yes, Commissioner. A resolution of the Miami City Commission urging President Joe Biden and the leaders of the 117th Congress of the United States, including the majority and minority leader of the United States Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the minority leader of the House of Representatives, and Governor Ron DeSantis and the Florida legislature to encourage all federal agencies to do everything in their power to bring to justice all of the responsible for the shooting down of the Brothers of the Rescue aircraft on February 24, 1996, directing the city clerk to transmit a copy of this resolution to the officials named herein.
Can we vote
Thank
on-
you. Is that a motion, Commissioner
Have a
Carollo?
motion.
Moved by Commissioner Carrillo, seconded by Commissioner Reyes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes on PI 1. I will skip PI 2 as that's a District 1 item. Mr. Manager, is the towing group still here to be heard?
They are.
I'll take up PI 3, please. A discussion item from the towing industry. How much time do you need? Oh, sorry, hold on. How much time do you need to speak?
I'm sorry?
How much time do you need to speak?
I don't hear you, I'm sorry.
How
much time?
2 minutes? Is that good?
Yes. Now, okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Adriana.
Mr.
Lovato,
Sheriff.
I represent them.
Mr. Sheriff, because I wanted to co-sponsor that, for the record, co-sponsor that,
Hermanos al rescate.
the Hermanos al Rescate. I don't know if you caught it when I said it. Okay.
It is noted. Thank you. Sorry, please
Okay.
continue.
Yes, that was cut earlier this morning.
Thank you. Well, first of all, we want to thank you for giving the opportunity to present the situation that we facing in the city and the city facing in the towing industry. As all you know, you have 5 contracts, towing contracts in the city. That is Downtown Towing, American Towing, King's Record, New Way, and Roadway. That is the old Banus. We all, the 5 companies, need to pay a franchise fee once a year. We give to the city $183.80, $50, $183,850 a year. We have to pay in advance. Within the 5 towing companies, everyone do like a $40,000, which we all agree to pay and to contribute to the city with the franchise fee. It's more than fair. But we are here because we're facing a problem and we have a situation. The situation is that nowadays, with the pandemic, it's less people on the street. The problematic is totally different like it used to be. And we have pirating. What is the issue? When we receive the calls, it's already too late. Why? Because we have several cancellations, because it's a business under the street that is promoting the industry of the insurance fraud. How is that happening? Because that industry, fraud industry, having private cars, it used to be different. They appear unauthorized record on the scene, and the police officer can see it. Now it's very difficult to identify who is doing what, because at the moment of an accident scene, a car crash or anything, is another private vehicle arriving with a females like me, very well dressed and everything, and they present the business and they do the negotiation. We all know where the cars ending, in the body shops and charging more for the insurance, but what is represent to us is like we don't have that particular call because they all have scanners. They arrive even before the police be able to dispatch the call to us. That being said, so when the towing company arrived to the scene, so we have the cancellation of the 07s. What represents this for the towing industry? We have to pay in advance the franchise fee. If we don't get the cars, well, our income, our performance is very difficult to have the payment for you on time. Now, everyone is losing because every vehicle that we able to tow, at the end, we have to pay the admin fee for the city. But if we don't able to catch the car, so everybody is losing.
Understood.
That's the problem, and that's why we are here. And we want to ask for the help and create an ordinance. It's another cities that have the ordinance. Like, for example, Hialeah. Hialeah is well done for be free of pirating. And what is the ordinance? It's one line. It's only one line. Any police initiated call must be given to the contracted towing company. We have 5, and we can distribute it between the 5 within the zone.
Just so I understand how this is leading to, you're saying that the current problem is that the pirate towing companies are waiting, and they're getting the contracts, but from whom? Are they getting lucky, or are they getting sent these calls?
Okay. It's an accident on the street, correct?
Yes.
It happened and somebody crashed. What happened is that industry of the pirating have scanners. So they know what is an accident in this corner, on the other one, or it's going to be an arrest, or whatever it is going to be. They arrive in a private car and they say, hey, don't worry, don't go with the company that the police is going to give you, because they're going to be more expensive and they're not going to do nothing. Let me give you something. I'm going to give a rent-a-car.
Understood. So the ordinance would be toward the police or toward the residents? The person in the accident must use a franchised company, or is it telling the police to refer correctly?
Okay. If a person break down on the street, I'm agreed. They're able to call whatever company they have. That's roadside service. But if the police initiate the call, should be given to one of the companies that have the contract to the city.
Right, and clearly the police would do that and should do that, but if they're listening, if the pirate companies are listening on the scanner and they get there first, how can, it's not up to the police to stop them, right? Or is it?
Exactly. The police doesn't know if they already have the business
Right.
set. So
Right.
that's why this ordinance is going to avoid that the insurance fraud continue,
Yeah.
that we losing calls, that the city losing the admin fee,
Yes.
because it's a simple, it's an ordinance. Now, it's another topic. They have scanners, they're going to know even before us. And some of the officers, they don't even have computer with them, so every work have a paperwork. When the other companies arrive, the other unauthorized records arrive, the police do not have to do any paperwork. So it's easy for them. But if it's an ordinance that is a law that every call initiated by the police have to give in to the companies that work contracted with the city, nobody can fail on this one, and nobody is going to lose money. At least not the city,
Understood.
no our
Thank
companies.
you. I'd be happy to help with this ordinance if I understand it a little better. So we need to get into the legislation and the current policies and the current methods of enforcement and who we're enforcing against. I really don't want to go after our residents because they don't know better. They don't know who is franchised and who is not. Mr. Manager, are you familiar with the situation and what the current methods of enforcement are and what this ordinance would propose?
No, we haven't
You haven't seen it yet?
really worked through that yet, and we'd be working obviously with PD to make sure
Okay.
that we have a plan that works from an
All
enforcement
right.
perspective.
Yes, so I would love to get into this because I want to make sure that our franchisees are protected, that our residents get professional service, that's from a group that is identified by the city and vetted, and figure out how we could possibly regulate this, and I'm not quite sure yet. So I'll be happy to take your suggestions, the police, the management, and I'm sure the commission
Yes.
would be happy to put together an ordinance to help protect your industry.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
I think that this type of ordinance also it requires that the police officers be informed who are the authorized towing companies. And so they know when somebody gets to because these people are what we call los pirata, no? Those are companies that they are not paying any fees to the city of Miami or anything, and they take advantage of our citizens by claiming that it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be less expensive, et cetera, et cetera. So I will join the chair in supporting that legislation too.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss on the item?
No, really, it's just a suggestion. If you want to go more deep, the police department have a report with all the losses that each company have, therefore the losses that the city have to.
Got it. All right, this is just informal direction to the manager to work together with you and the police department and coming up with an ordinance. We'll see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to speak, or
Yes,
you're very welcome?
I'm Tim Del Roselle, downtown Torrance. How you got commissioners doing?
Good.
What she was talking about is we're city towers, we pay a fee to do the towing. And what's happened is what she's talking about is what we call pirates out on the street. They go off the police radios and stuff, and they go to the call way ahead of us. And they tell the customer they tell them whatever, they're gonna give money back, they're gonna take them to doctors, they're gonna get this, they promise them different things and stuff. And it really is like an insurance scam. There's a body shop behind us, and when it rains, you see the pirates pulling it in there, and they take the car straight to a body shop and they sell them and stuff. We don't do stuff like that. We take them to the yard, notify the owners, the insurance companies. And there's been so much of that what we just do is clean the streets now, because what's junk, they won't mess with the junk because there's no money in it. They look for the new cars. They survive off of the new stuff that they could take, and they could take them to doctors, they could do this. So Hialeah got the ordinance in place, it's been working great for them, that they have to use their police towing. And it's like the old days when you used to be 500 feet from an accident, they used to arrest you because that was called soliciting, and you had scanners and stuff. They used to arrest you. Nowadays, they do it digitally and stuff. And we just have a major problem where, we work for the city, but we're towing old junk boats, we're towing this. But when it comes to the money where you could get a car to take to the yard for the insurance company or something, we don't get no accidents and stuff.
How much are they undercutting you by?
I say, in my zone, we don't get no good cars. It's just, we pick up the salvage. And then you go to.
I mean, on a given pickup, how much are you charging versus how much are they charging?
How much we charge to pick up?
Are they charging less? Are they getting a cheap pickup?
Oh, no, here's the deal. They tell them one thing, but when they go to the body shops with the cars,
That's when they get them.
you go there, because we pick up for different insurance companies, and you see bills for thousands of dollars. They're not regulated because they could put $500 for a tow. And that poor customer, she let them go to take it to a shop. It's a total loss. They got tear downs. It's really an insurance scam that really is costing the insurance companies millions of dollars. So, and it don't start insurance. It goes to the doctors. They take them to private. There's all kinds of fraud in this. And that's what we're trying to do. If we can get the ordinance passed that Hialeah has, that way, because we're regulated with the City of Miami Police. They're there all the time checking. We work off their computers. They know where the cars go, and so I highly recommend if we could get a program together, and the city already knows, they've been looking at it, that we can have a ordinance where it's a police record that's inspected by the city, that has to go by city rates and everything to pick up the cars at the accidents and stop all this free-for-all that we have on the streets.
Thank you. Thanks
Okay,
for your
thank you,
comments.
guys.
Thanks for coming, and
Mr.
thanks for your
Chair.
patience all day.
Pardon me?
Mr. Chair, I know about this, I know a person that fell for that scam because they take it to the yard, whatever they take it, and they charge whatever they want for storage. That's another thing that they make a lot of money on it, and which is totally different. It's more than what a regular does. The person when he came, when the insurance company came with the, and was ready to pay, it lost a lot of money in storage from this private company that took it to a yard that wasn't regulated by us. That's,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
our residents are suffering.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for your
Okay, I think that there's an ordinance that the city has that they recommended, that if we could get, this commission to pass that for us, that we will be, that's what we're really looking to try to accomplish. Thank you, guys.
Got it. Thank you very much. Is there anything else on PI3, the towing issue? We'll close that item out. Commissioner Diaz-Labortilla, would you like to take up your pocket item regarding urging the foreclosure situation?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is a resolution of the Miami City Commission urging Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniel Levine Cava and the Miami-Dade County Commission to require that the Miami-Dade Police Department not execute eviction foreclosure orders, including but not limited to writs of possession during the historic pandemic until questions of fraudulent foreclosures have been investigated, adjudicated with all due process required by the U.S. Constitution and the Florida Constitution, and directing the city clerk to transmit a copy of this resolution to Mayor Levine Calla. And what it does is basically that it allows for due process and Fifth Amendment rights to take place during the entire course of the process. So there are appeals, and people can appeal, and whenever they exhaust every legal remedy available to them, then the Miami-Dade Police Department, which is the only ones that execute these writs of possession, these evictions, can come in and do what needs to be done according to law. But to prematurely, especially when you're dealing with banks that are involved in fraud, as has been proven, that's a national mortgage settlement that Chase and Bank of America and 3 other banks had to do because they committed fraud of $25 billion was a settlement, a national settlement. But just 2 of these banks, Chase and Bank of America alone, are worth $6 trillion. So $25 billion for them was nothing, peanuts, right? So they have many lawyers, they're very powerful, and they don't allow people that can't defend themselves to have they don't have the resources to defend themselves. So we want people to be able to have these resources available to them, at least the legal process available to them through the course of the legal process. They don't have the resources to defend themselves against big banks, but at least let the courts, the judicial system defend them until they've exhausted all those possibilities. And that's what this does. The only one that has the power to do that is not us, because we don't execute these. The city, the Miami-Dade County Police Department, and the mayor who oversees, the strong mayor that oversees the Miami-Dade County Police Department.
Is this only COVID-related during the pandemic state of emergency, or is this something broader reaching beyond?
Well, the idea is how you define that, right? It could be caused by COVID, and then the issue continues because they fall back on their payments, and the foreclosure process begins. So right now, if they can't pay, they spend 6, 7, 8, 10 months without being able to pay, whether it's a predatory loan or through fraud that a bank committed. Well, the court system will determine. But if it starts during COVID and it continues post-COVID, if we ever get to a post-COVID world, we may never get to a post, maybe a vaccination after a number of years, then that hardship continues. I think that there are judicial procedures that can be taken into place to avoid fraud and people who abuse assistance. We understand that's also a reality. So, but we are seeing a lot of people that are impacted by COVID, people that have lost their jobs. We have a service industry economy here in Miami-Dade, and we don't want to see people evicted, in particular people that are vulnerable, elderly, and don't have economic resources to defend themselves against powerful banks. And that's sort of what this does.
Understood.
That's exactly what it does, actually. That's sort of.
So I found the time frame scope. It says during this historic pandemic until questions of fraudulent foreclosures have been investigated. So it's actually taking on a broader issue, right? It's not just about pandemic-related foreclosures. It's about fraudulent foreclosures as well.
Of course, it's a combination of both, right? So during this historic pandemic until questions of fraudulent foreclosures have been adjudicated, they misspelled adjudicated, with all due process is the key here, required by the U.S. Constitution and so on. So it's through the entire process related to the pandemic. Of course, everything we're doing right now, with whether it's gift cards or rental relief, people are attesting that it's because of the pandemic. But we're taking the word for it, right? It may be that they simply lost their job because they were fired.
Right.
Or they just didn't show up, or they did something wrong. And so we have to, like anything that you swear under the threat of perjury, right? You are attesting to things that this is a fact of what's happened, that's what's happened to you. So to a certain extent, we take the word at it, but it's an under oath word for it.
How would the county identify what questions are fraudulent, which foreclosures are potentially fraudulent or not? Is it ones that would be under investigation specifically, or would this be just a moratorium on foreclosures and possessions for an unforeseen time until this issue with the banks is resolved?
If there's a legal process in place,
Yes.
if someone is claiming fraud from a bank, if there's a legal case pending or being going through a legal process, that's how you determine it. The people would have to take the necessary steps to prove, but one court may agree and appeals court may disagree. So instead of them being premature and saying, well, no, everybody is equal, well, no, some people have, that's how they'll determine it, whether it's a legal process in place.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a moratorium on all foreclosures, it would simply be targeting those, well, during the pandemic, yes, we do believe, regardless of what the
Well,
state says,
There's a moratorium on all evictions now.
Yes.
In place.
but we don't know when that's finishing.
We don't know, and that unpredictability creates problems, right?
Yes.
Because once, it's going to end at some point, right? And once that happens, the banks are gonna go hog wild and start evicting and foreclosing on everybody who owes many, many months of mortgage payments.
Yeah.
So we want to try to prevent that. We want to sort of give them a safe place to land along the way, and that safe place to land, or a safer place to land, is through the judicial process. So there's a process, there's a legal process in place, right? It's not that we're going to say everybody, you know, and everybody can do what they want. It's a question of whether they're undergoing a legal process. They may have a proper basis to undergo the legal process, but they have to be in the court system.
Got
They
it.
can't be just, I'm not going to pay my mortgage and we can't foreclose on it.
Got it, so those could still be foreclosed upon?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well,
I'll just-
that's my intent now. This is written quickly.
And I asked so many questions because this is the first really getting deep on it, so. I
No,
just wanna
and of
understand.
course, the city attorney can write it the way for what the intent is, what my intent is the way we clarify it.
Got it.
But it's during the foreclosure, related to the pandemic, an inability to pay,
That have been challenged for fraud.
then challenge for fraud.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair,
But
Yes, you're recognized, Commissioner Reyes.
I know that we have a problem. I had two ladies, old ladies in my district that through our city attorney will refer them to legal services, and they were able to help them. But we have to be very careful here. And we have to distinguish between those that they're really affected and they are economically, they're not due to the pandemic or the lack of income, that they cannot pay, and those that don't want to pay.
correct.
You see? And that's why we have to go through a legal process. And now we have a moratorium, but the moratorium was extended by President Biden until March,
Yes.
the end of March. Now, I know that I am very concerned about this, about what's going to happen at the moratorium, but we have to be very specific that we don't open the door to those people that don't want to pay, and they be hurting also. It will be a disaster because if you are an apartment owner and you cannot pay the bank, then the bank will come after you. So we have to be very specific who is going to be protected and who's not going to be protected. That's my only comment.
Correct. And my concern.
And it's happening now, and I agree with you. You see, I have an example of those two ladies that they're senior citizens that were helped through our legal department, and they were referred to legal aid, and they're still protected now, and they won't be evicted, and we're trying to get them up to date on the payments.
And I agree with your concerns. Fraud is always a concern whenever we do any of these programs. Fraud is always a concern because the world has fraudsters, right? So that's always a concern. But the world also has a lot of innocent victims that don't have the economic resources to fight powerful institutions or powerful people. And the only power that these powerless people have is government to come in and help them along the way. And that's sort of the way my philosophy has always been, which is, the only force against powerful institutions, powerful special interests, is government. And this is what we need to do but I agree with you. The other concern that I have very quickly is that these moratoriums issued by the state are really being done sort of month to month or for 2 more months, and it concerns me that one day they'll wake up and say, we're over, we're done, we lift it, and then there'll be an onslaught of foreclosures, and we can't do anything about it. It's too late for us to catch up, So this way, we kind of figure out a way to prevent that from happening. I don't, to be honest with you, feel not with any particular politician, I don't feel the state government is giving us a lot of leeway in us making decisions. They're not saying we're going to do this for 6 more months or 1 more year. They're saying this month till March, and then they'll do till June. And I just want us to be prepared, not us. I want the county government to be prepared. And I want the mayor of Miami-Dade County to know that this is a concern that the city of Miami has. By the way, a lot of these foreclosures are taking place in the city of Miami. A lot of these people are elderly people. Ms. Rodriguez today was an example of many other elderly people that are suffering through the same thing. She was the face of a much broader problem, a nationwide problem, but we can only deal with our city. And I think this public call to arms from our Miami-Dade County mayor is an important, not only symbolic, but a powerful voice that we give these helpless people a powerful voice through this commission.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, have you approved this as to form and correctness yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my version doesn't have the signature, it has the spot. My question for you is this: once the federal government and/or the state lift the moratorium on evictions, does the county have unilateral power not to enforce?
Right, so as drafted, remember that it's a resolution urging Miami-Dade County to do so. So at the end of the day, Miami-Dade County can.
No, that's not my question. Does the county have the unilateral power to not enforce foreclosures once the state and federal government have lifted the moratorium?
As in the sheriff, sending out the sheriff. I
Yes.
mean, usually it's a process. They have a huge backlog. So I think when the moratorium is lifted, they're going to start processing.
You're not answering my question, I'm sorry.
No, I am. They're going to start processing.
Right,
I do
but
not
do they have the
necessarily-
ability to not do it by
Right.
choice?
I don't think they can unilaterally not follow the law. You're supposed to, once you get writs of possession, you're supposed to start.
Okay, so that's beyond a symbolic urging, do they even have the ability to do what we're asking them to do from a legal perspective is my question. Like if the county mayor can direct their department not to go out and enforce this, then absolutely, our urging could have an effect. But if we're asking them to do something that their hands are tied on anyway, are we asking them to do something they don't have the legal ability to do?
As of right now, they are looking to start certain sheriff
I know that.
procedures. So obviously, for now, until the 31st, which is a month from now,
Yeah.
you absolutely have the authority to urge them to do this.
Yes.
Afterwards, we may be hard pressed for them to unilaterally stop doing anything if the federal government tells
Lifts the
them to
moratorium.
start.
So once the moratorium is lifted, they must carry out the law
Yep.
on foreclosures.
Yes,
and
unless
possession.
there is some fraud or unless there's something that's not happening. Like if the judicial process is not complete, at the end of the day, it doesn't happen.
Got it.
So what's being requested right now is for these certain foreclosures that are probably under investigation and what have you, and or are under rehearing, there's appeals, all those types of things, they shouldn't be carrying out
Got
writs
it. So
anyway.
in a sense, it's less about the pandemic and more about the fraudulent foreclosure process that does exist. And our urging of the mayor to really look closely and not send out the sheriff if something is still under investigation and potential fraud is in place. Is that correct, Commissioner? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That's correct.
Okay.
But what happens, for example, that's correct. What's happened today, for example, if you read the Miami Herald article, the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniela Levine Cava, issued a quote where she says that she agrees with this idea. And I think that has a lot to do, as all politicians react to this, to public pressure, right? Has a lot to do with some of the pressure that so many people have been putting and shining light on what's happening to Ana Rodriguez, right? So I think that's important. I think government does many things, as you do many times, because you are constantly doing resolutions urging the federal government to do this or to that. You're very good at that. So that's what we're doing, the same thing. We're, as a body, we're putting the weight of this body behind this idea, this concept, and putting political pressure on other bodies to say, hey, this is happening, a lot of it in our city, and we're doing things that are important. You know, we do things that urge President Biden to do certain things, DeSantis to do other things. I think since I've been here, you've probably done about 12 of those. So this is the same thing, but except this is a more immediate problem, this is a more dramatic problem. And what we did today and what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks with this issue, we put a face to the crisis. And when people see the human aspect of it, the human side of it, people feel more pain. They feel somebody else's pain. And I think that we need to, as a body, send that message, a very clear message that we're not going to allow banks to abuse, that people may, for example, what happened with why the bank settled the National Mortgage Settlement Agreement, why they signed that, was because they were processing these foreclosures before the documents had been endorsed. And before they did that, they actually robo-signed. So they had one person, the name was Mary Kist, a real person, but that Mary Kist signed 250,000 assignments from one mortgage company that's countrywide to Bank of America. And then later on, when they were caught, they said, well, we're going to get it endorsed. And what they did was they actually rubber stamped it, Bank of America did, even, although Countrywide is the only one that can endorse, and there's an endorser, it's an endorsee, right? So the endorsee stamped it like they were the endorser. And all that happened, they got caught, they had to settle because they were going to lose a lot more, and they said, okay, we'll give you $25 billion. That practice of prosecuting, or not prosecuting, of filing for foreclosure against innocents that are powerless to defend themselves was an across-the-board thing that they were doing. Some people even say it was racketeering, because it's an ongoing criminal enterprise, right? So that's all this does. Whether Mayor Levine Cava comes out tomorrow and says, no, I want people homes foreclosed or the writ of possession granted, she can do that. I don't think she's going to do that. And I don't think any elected official in their right mind would do that. Because this is a clear signal, a clear message that this is not acceptable to us. This is government protecting the powerless versus the powerful. And that's probably the primary role of government, to protect the powerless. The people don't have a voice, we're their voice.
I'll take that as a motion.
Yes, sir.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Reyes?
Yes, but I want to make clear what we're doing, basically, what we're saying, don't take any action when still there is some investigation going on or some legal activities pending.
Yes, sir.
Don't take any actions. Just wait until everything is settled.
Yes, sir.
That's the way I understand this.
Yes.
Commissioner
That's my
Correa,
intent.
did you want to-
Okay.
That's my intent.
Did you have a comment, Commissioner Crowe?
Okay, do you have any idea how many properties we might be talking about in the city of Miami?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you have any idea of how many of those properties might fall under the areas that you touched upon, that there were predator loans?
No, but we can easily find out that information, subprime predator loans, but it's not only predator loans, it's also fraudulent activity by the bank. Because the subprime loans were a common practice in 2006 and 7 and 8. And a lot of people fell into problems because they were told this is what you're going to pay, and then all of a sudden the variable rate changes and they can no longer afford it. This is not what this is about. This is about fraudulent actions by large banks that led to people's homes being sold or writ of possessions being issued or foreclosure started without due process, without the proper documents being presented initially. And then a cover-up perhaps.
So this is different than
Yes, sir.
anything having to do with COVID?
No, sir, no, well, it does. They may have happened during this period of COVID.
Well,
so-
yeah, but
so-
it's
'cause now-
not
because
COVID-related, like
Well,
you missed paying a payment because you lost your job.
No, it could be COVID-related, same thing as anything else we do. For example, our gift card program, our rental assistance program, and additional programs, people attest that it's COVID-related. They sign, as you know, because you talk about this a lot, under threat of perjury of law, right? Or under perjury. So people sign an oath, they attest, they affirm that they are suffering economic crisis. They cannot perhaps pay for a lawyer to defend themselves. They cannot pay the payment, and they fall into arrears. So what we do with most of these programs, including our rental assistance program, which we're going to discuss later, is if you look at the Department of Treasury guidelines, it's not a tax return, it's an affirmation, they're attesting that they're suffering economic hardship due to COVID-19. And suffering economic hardship could be an inability to pay a lawyer to defend themselves. It could be a number of things. It's not only the mortgage payment itself. It's a combination of things. It's whether a bank engages in fraud, and COVID-19 has now caused them, now they're unable to defend themselves or unable to make the payments that actually they fell into arrears as a result.
So if I understood all that you said is, from the beginning of what you said, you take seriously people having to sign the fact that they're signing under penalty of perjury in a sworn affidavit.
Absolutely. Very much.
That makes a difference, you think?
To me, it does. Absolutely.
Okay?
They do it all the time when people, they have to sign, and you assume you conclude that has a value to it. Otherwise, why would you do it, right? Yes, I take that very seriously. I think perjury is a very serious matter.
Okay, so
This is not binding.
no, this is just urging, but what I think we have here are two different things. You're talking about something that, in most cases, started way before COVID, and then maybe in other cases, it affected them even more when they lost a job in COVID. But the bottom line is the biggest reason that I see in this urging is not COVID, is just that banks gave fraudulent loans, predatory loans, whatever you want to call it, whatever way you want to describe it. This is where you're touching upon, correct?
That's correct. And, for example, I'll give you an example to answer it a different way. Ms. Rodriguez, who was here today, would not be able to be defending herself right now, as an example, if Mr. Jacobs was not providing his services pro bono.
That's clear. That's very clear.
So, because now, maybe she has to people give up their savings along the way during COVID, so that's why it's related to COVID. So there are other expenses that when these banks come after you, that are incurred. So it has to have fraud, but it also has to have some relation to not being able to pay because of COVID-19.
Yeah, but
And that's an affirmation that people make.
yeah, even though I think that in her case here, neither one thing has to do with the other, but this started way before the COVID came, and she was not able to pay before COVID. And that's the point that I'm making, that the resolution that you're asking to urge the county mayor to take the steps that are being asked for here really are, separate from COVID. COVID has just made the situation worse for everybody and everything. But this would have been a problem to the people, it's been a problem to whether we had COVID or not.
Mr. Chair?
You're right.
And I want to add to what Commissioner Carollo said. I don't know if you had to watch on advertisement, that they are even selling insurance against this fraudulent, because there is an epidemic going on, that some people are changing and manipulating the deeds, and when you find out, they're trying to evict you. And I think that's a big problem that we should address.
There is a motion, there is a second. I'd like to open for public comment on this and any of the other pocket items that the public had not had a chance to read this morning. Is there anyone on the line, or is there anyone here who would like to speak on any of these items? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Is there any further discussion on PI2? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. The last pocket item is the mayor's item. Does he need to present this item, or is it before us in full to take up?
I'll present it for him if he likes. If you could read it, Madam City Attorney.
Which one is that?
I don't have a hard copy. If you let me 1 second, get it from my email.
Okay.
I don't have a copy of it.
A resolution of the Miami City Commission opposing the proposed Miami-Dade County Ordinance, Miami-Dade County Legislative File Number 210409, relating to updating the Miami-Dade County Traffic Flow Modifications and Street Closure Procedure Manual to prohibit the consideration of road closings in municipalities to be used in connection with traffic calming measures, directing the city clerk to transmit this resolution to the officials named herein. And apparently on March 2nd, 2021, there's a meeting that the Miami-Dade County Traffic Flow Modifications and Street Closure Procedure is going to be heard. And that numerous numerous city streets serving low-density residential neighborhoods, including single-family neighborhoods, are used daily by drivers from areas beyond the city's boundaries to cut through on their way to jobs and schools and other destinations. And such cut-through traffic has diminished the safety of pedestrians and residents in these neighborhoods. And the ordinance under consideration is unnecessary as Miami-Dade County, through its Department of Transportation and Public Works, already possesses jurisdiction over most road closings and has steadfastly refused the requests made by the city for such closings in recent years. So that's the issue.
Madam City Attorney, and this may be a Public Works question as well, I'm not sure. Does their proposed ordinance change our ability to unilaterally approve street closures as part of traffic calming? Or have we never had that right to do so anyway?
We don't have that right.
So I'm just trying to get to the very crux of their legislation and what it changes in our ability. Oh, sorry, let me turn on go ahead. You're on.
Good afternoon, this is Zeri Ihekwaba, Assistant City Manager. Currently, the Miami-Dade County Code makes provisions for procedures for closing of public right-of-ways, and the county retains exclusive jurisdiction on any such closures. What they're trying to do here is to preclude the ability of any local government from contemplating any closures of any form as part of traffic calming. Back in 2009, Miami-Dade County had set up regulations and guidelines that will dictate how a local government can initiate interlocal agreements for us to assume certain jurisdictional control for traffic and traffic engineering, traffic calming, and related activities. The City of Miami had obtained 2 interlocal agreements with the county that devolves those powers to us. What this legislation is trying to contemplate is to preclude us from considering prospectively any type of road closures in order to accomplish traffic calming. This, I believe, is a direct reaction to some of the efforts that we're currently making to address some of the more egregious situation of traffic impacts, cut-through traffic in our local residential neighborhoods, as well as to assume their original jurisdiction.
Mr. Hekwaba, even if they take it out of the bucket of traffic calming, can't we still apply for or urge for a closure of a street for multiple other reasons?
Oh, yeah, definitely, because this is specific for traffic calming.
Right, but
So you can always do it for some other purposes.
is there a different process that makes it more difficult to do it through that other process versus the traffic calming process?
Every other process ultimately devolves on us going back to the county for approval or concurrence.
Is there a higher burden for the other process versus?
It is. What they are trying to do is to force every local government, all the 34 local governments in the county, to recognize that they still retain the original jurisdiction to decide and prescribe how you can accomplish that.
Got it. So do we think we will have a negative result, unintended, well, probably an intended negative result on our ability to apply for street closures?
That's yet to be determined. However, I must point out that this is a directive. This legislation is a directive to the mayor or to the county mayor's designee to initiate the process of making those changes that are outlined in that legislation.
And the legislation before us is
Yes.
urging them not to do
Not
that.
to do that.
Got it.
That they already have existing process.
Yes.
And they should continue to utilize that existing
And
process.
in that existing process, street closures is considered a traffic calming
Oh,
device.
yeah, it is. It is considered a traffic
There's
calming.
nothing calmer than a closed street, right?
We're not closing streets. I just don't want to make sure that we don't misuse terms. We're not closing any streets. This is just vehicular restriction, access for vehicles. So
Understood.
pedestrians will continue to have access on our streets.
Difference is understood. All right. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Kwama. Is there a motion on PI 4?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Diaz-La Portilla, seconded by Commissioner Reyes. Any further discussion from the dais? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner. That is all of our pocket items, if I'm not mistaken. Are there any others? Mr. Clerk, what else would I miss?
The emergency ordinance one?
Oh, yes, thank you. Has anybody called in with regard to the emergency ordinance? Or is anyone here who would like to speak on that? This is with regard to temporary use permits for vaccine sites. Seeing none, is there a motion from Commissioner Reyes?
Move it.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Diaz-Labortia.
Is this the one?
Any further discussion on the dais? Hearing none, all in favor say
Chair.
yes.
It is an emergency ordinance, so the city attorney needs to read the title into the record, and there needs to be 2 votes.
Okay, I believe she did read the title.
I just loosely described it.
Okay, let's go ahead and read it formally. Does she need to read it twice?
Twice.
Read it once.
And you vote twice.
Yes, sir.
She needs to read it again?
I have to, yes, twice.
Okay, let's go.
And then you vote twice. I'll try and read it quickly. 4/5 vote, an emergency ordinance of the Miami City Commission by 4/5 affirmative vote, amending Chapter 62, Article 8, Section 526 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended title Planning and Zoning approval for temporary uses and occupancies, permit required reserved, establishing a pilot program to provide for an automatic waiver of temporary event permit, event number limitations for TEP permits for temporary use permits related to novel coronavirus vaccination and testing sites containing a severability clause and providing for an immediate effective date.
Is there a motion?
Move it.
Commissioner Reyes, Commissioner Diaz-Labortia, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Come again.
4/5 vote on emergency ordinance of the Miami City Commission by 4/5 affirmative vote, amending Chapter 62, Article 13, Section 526 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Planning and Zoning approval for temporary uses and occupancies, permit required, reserved, establishing a pilot program to provide for an automatic waiver of temporary event permits, event number limitations for TEP permits or temporary use permits related to novel coronavirus vaccination and testing sites containing a severability clause and providing for an immediate effective date. There's a couple typos in the title that we'll have to amend as well.
Got it. Motion by Commissioner Reyes, seconded by Commissioner Diaz-Labortia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. I'd like to go back to the regular agenda, please. Let's start at the very top. Is there a motion for the CA and the remaining PH agenda? This would be CA 1 and 2, PH 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. CA and PH.
Remember that for PH 5 and 6, you received a substitution?
All of them are 4/5.
I'm sorry, Commissioner?
I think all of them are 4/5, all the PHs,
Yes,
Are 4/5.
except for PH 7
except, that's it.
is not a 4/5.
And Chair, just for the record, there's a substitute for backup documents only for PH4. Substitute for backup documents only.
I have a question about PH4.
Yes, you're recognized.
This is a the bid waiver for the redistricting services.
It's a bid waiver and a conflict waiver.
It's, right, so it's, that's what I was gonna ask. So it's also a conflict waiver, so that this to be clear, so I understand nothing's been changed. This allows for a conflict waiver for the entire law firm of Holland and Knight for any future conflict. Is that correct?
With regard to this issue, Madam City Attorney, correct?
No, for any issue.
Right, it is a conflict waiver for Miguel de Grande and Holland and Knight for all their clients, present and future.
For eternity.
As long as we have hired Holland and Knight and
Once their
Miguel de
services
Grande.
are complete with regard to this, the scope of this contract,
Well, right, there wouldn't be a conflict at that point anyway, so.
so it's not eternity, it's just for the period of the
For the
redistricting process.
period, for the
Right,
period
as
of
long
the
as
service.
we've hired him.
So the redistricting process, my understanding, the department, the Census Department issued a statement that there will be no data points issued until September 30th. So there is not going to be any redistricting this year, probably, because we don't have any data till September 30th unless we can, I think it's past our qualifying deadline.
Uh-huh.
So, this contract, as long as it remains in place, so we can terminate within 30 days, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do we pay them any money? Are we paying them monthly? Or are we paying them one flat sum?
Payments come in for 25%, 50% of the work, 75% of the work, 100% of the work.
For a total of 100,000.
Correct. So it's based on work product.
And what's the timing of that, those payments, the 25%? And the
Based
50
on work product. So there's no timing about it. It could take them,
Well, how do you define work product? Because if we're not gonna have any data points until September 30th,
then he would only get paid the upfront payment and then he wouldn't get paid again
so he
until,
gets 20, okay, and then he won't get paid again until even if Holland and Knight issues a report along the way, like September 30th, they come back with an initial, this is the census data that we have, the initial data point dropped. Right? So my question is, how long, when will 100% be paid before redistricting is actually a reality, which won't be till 2023, because we don't have an election until 2023. We may have one of you leave us, but that may be a special election. I don't know, they'll be redistricted in 2022. And then how many issues will Holland and Knight have before us in that 1.5, 2 year, 3 year period, potential 2 year period? And during that 2 year period, do they now have a complete, across-the-board conflict waiver until redistricting is finalized? Until we accept, this body votes out a redistricting plan? Does that conflict waiver stay in effect until this body votes out a redistricting plan?
Until he represents us, which,
Until this body votes out a redistricting plan?
right, well, what if he doesn't, right, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, then, there's an appeal to that, because that happened. There's a lawsuit associated with redistricting, because there always is, for whatever reason, right? Always happens. There's always a lawsuit. That continues, that conflict waiver remains in effect as he continues to represent us in those lawsuits as we move forward with redistricting.
If he is the one representing us, yes.
Okay.
Madam City Attorney,
Go ahead, Commissioner Correa.
the last two times that we had redistricting done, and Mr. DeGrande did it, what lawsuits do we have?
The last time,
The last
for
two
sure,
times.
the last one, the one that I was involved in, there wasn't, I don't remember a lawsuit.
That's what I thought.
But I can't tell you, I would have to look for the one before that.
Okay, I don't think there was one either. So that's why I wanted to get that in the record. Secondly of all, it's very unclear still, because the way the Census Department is jumping back and forth on whether they will give us information or not before we open up our qualifying period. Last but not least, and I think it's been clear, they're going to get an upfront fee, and they'll be getting paid afterwards, and they got a flat fee that whatever time it takes them to accomplish this, that's all they're going to receive.
That's right.
Last but not least, how much did you pay Senator Gravano, Mr. Manager?
25,000.
let me get that number for you. I
It's,
don't know. It's like,
Pretty close to that $50,000, right?
I don't believe so, actually.
How much was it then?
Let me find out. Let me find out.
Yeah, bring it back sometime so we will know.
No, I'll try to get it for you before the meeting's over, if you'd like.
Commissioner, you're recognized.
My biggest concern, I know it was less than the 25,000 we're going to pay, I know for a fact, it was less than the 25,000 we're going to pay Mr. DeGrande up front to do work that's not going to be done for 2 years, number one. Second of all, the Census Bureau already came back, and I'll get you a copy of the letter to all the offices of the commissioners.
I've seen the letter, but
Okay,
the
that-
letter is not fully clarified.
It was for me, I'll
Whether
send
they might have some things before or not.
They made it very clear that it's not till September
But
30th.
you didn't have so many questions when you had asked Mr. Galvano.
What-
when he was here before.
That's not
No,
before,
no,
but that's not before us. This is not a
No,
debate.
But it is before.
And I
us,
have the floor.
because
No, it's not. It's not before
What
us.
you're bringing up now, you asked Mr.
Because Mr. Galvano
the
did not
last time he
reflect,
was here.
Mr. Galvano did not reflect a conflict waiver for an entire law firm, with the entire law firm, because number one, he doesn't lobby us,
if,
He doesn't have 24 clients, and that's why there wasn't a debate. My problem with this is that that he's requesting an across-the-board conflict waiver for 2 years or more.
it's not
And
for
Mr.
3 years.
Galvano
It's
and
not for-
anyone,
it's
and
not
I wouldn't
for
give that
3
to
years or
anybody.
more.
It
It's
is,
not
because
for
we're
3
not gonna
years
have,
or more.
and I would not give a conflict waiver to any law firm, including Mr. Galvano's, because if we give it to this law firm, an across-the-board waiver, then any law firm, I could file a resolution tomorrow for the next commission meeting that we waive every law firm's conflict of interest during a particular process, because they represent clients before us. This is nothing, this is something that's unprecedented,
Commissioner,
unprecedented. So, you know, it doesn't matter. At the end of the
number
day,
one, if we run into any areas that are problematic to us in any way, we have the right to immediately cancel this contract. That's why I haven't had any concerns about it. If we run into anything, we have that right. But with all due respect, I don't believe your concerns is about that at all. It's about that Mr. Galvano's not here and Mr. DeGrande's here. So
you
you're
don't
gonna
know
try
what
every which way
nah, you don't know what my
to
concerns are.
berate Mr. DeGrande.
No, I disagree. Actually, this is not personal. It's one of the things that I never do. I never turn anything personal.
Okay.
So maybe you're projecting. I don't do that. I don't turn anything personal.
All right?
I simply think as a legislative body, it's a mistake to give any law firm, Mr. DeGrande's,
Well,
any law firm, an absolute across-the-board waiver. And our city attorney agrees with that.
You
It's
made-
unprecedented.
you made your point the last meeting. We
I'm making it
discussed
again
for a
now.
long
That's
time.
why,
You're
instead,
making it
and I'm
again
making,
now.
and I'll make it again next week.
And
And I'll make it
that's
again the
fine.
following
And you
week.
can make it,
And when the conflict occurs,
you
I'll
can
make it again.
Yeah, you can make it all the time you want.
I will. That's why I'm here. So I want PH4 taken out, so I'm gonna vote against it, because
Just don't
we
don't have the extended time that we keep taking on this. You know, if you want, you could tell us every meeting how many minutes you want to deal with us.
No, because because when you go on a non-commissioner, you don't tell us how many minutes you're gonna speak. You don't limit my right to address
But you know
any issue.
what? I'm just going to do that right now. You made your statement. Unless you have anything different to say,
What I
I'm going
have
to
to
put a
say,
motion right now.
You
to
make
call the
whatever motion
question.
you wanna make. What I'm gonna do,
I'm making a call to call the question.
I don't wanna vote, I wanna vote against PH4, so I can't vote for all of them.
We'll take it separately. There-
Exactly.
That's a
Well, that's
motion.
all you got to ask for. You could vote against it.
That's what I'm doing.
It's a motion from Commissioner Croyo for PH4 on its own,
Correct.
seconded by the chair. Is there any further discussion on PH4? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1, is that correct? Thank you very much. Going back to the remainder of the CA agenda and PH2, 3, 5, 6, and 7.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner
Seconded.
Reyes, seconded by Commissioner Diaz-Portilla. Any further discussion on these items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes on CA 1, 2, PH 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. We have EM, the amending Chapter 2, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Is there a motion on that item?
So
Chairman,
move.
What's this one?
Madam City Attorney?
it's also an emergency ordinance, so 2 readings, 2 votes.
It's not listed with a number on my plasma. Is it misprinted? Is it EM1?
It's an error. It should be EM1.
EM1, all right.
Oh, okay.
EM1, the mover was Commissioner Diaz-Portilla?
Yes, sir.
Seconded by
Watson.
Commissioner Watson. There you go. There's a little delay on the Zoom, so I was worried you're not getting a chance to get your second in fast enough. You got it. All right. There's been a motion and a second. Madam City Attorney, if you could read the ordinance, please.
4/5 vote, an emergency ordinance of the Miami City Commission by a 4/5 affirmative vote, amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 2 of the Code of the City of Miami as amended, titled Standards for Creation and Review of Boards Generally, to include references to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Further amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 8 of the City Code, entitled Administration, Boards, Committees, Commissions, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee by establishing the committee to comply with Section 420.9076 Florida statutes and to participate in the State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program, stating the committee's purpose, powers, duties, composition, appointment, qualifications, and requirements for membership, providing for officers, rules of procedure, meetings, quorum, budget, legal, and staff support, assignment of personnel, waivers, and public notice. Further amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 19 of the Code of the City Code titled Housing and Commercial Loan Committee to remove reference to the purpose, function, powers, and duties of the Housing and Commercial Loan Committee that will be subsumed by the committee, containing a severability clause and providing for an immediate effective date.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you recognize, Mr. Manager.
We'd also like to, at some point, have the commission designee for this committee.
All right, let's take the vote on this, and
Selected.
I'll see who steps forward.
Okay.
There's been a motion and a second on EM1.
Yes?
Yes. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Is that an aye or a nay?
Aye.
Thank you. Second reading?
Chairman, I just wanted to clarify.
I like to, I'd like to volunteer and be our elected representative to that board.
You would like to be?
Yes, sir.
Noted. As soon as we finish second reading, we'll take a vote. Is a vote necessary to put in
Yes,
our
I have
representative?
to read the title again and the vote, and a vote will be necessary to determine what commissioner.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to clarify that EM1 is as amended because we have to put in the word immediate because you need this immediately and it is being passed by an emergency ordinance. So the effective date is immediate effective date as I read it into the record. Thank you. I'm going to read it again.
Thank you.
4/5 vote, an emergency ordinance of the Miami City Commission by 4/5 affirmative vote, amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 2 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended titled Standards for Creation, Review of Boards Generally to include references to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Further amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 8 of the City Code titled Administration Boards, Committees, Commissions, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee by establishing the committee to comply with Section 420.9076 Florida statutes to participate in the State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program, stating the committee's purpose, powers, duties, composition, appointment qualifications, and requirements for membership, providing for officers, rules of procedure, meetings, quorum, budget, legal, staff, legal and support staff, assignment of personnel, waivers, public notice, further amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 19 of the City Code titled Housing and Commercial Loan Committee to remove reference to the purposes, functions, powers, and duties of the Housing and Commercial Loan Committee that will be subsumed by the committee, containing a severability clause and providing for an immediate effective date.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't have a mover and seconder for the second vote.
Move.
Moved by Commissioner Diaz-Labortia, seconded by the chair. All in favor say aye.
Second.
I'll give it to
Aye.
Commissioner Watson on the Zoom delay. Seconded by Commissioner Watson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
As amended.
Motion passes. Thank you. as
Thank you.
amended. Madam City Attorney, on one that we already passed, which was PI2, the urging of the foreclosure situation, just a note, on line 7 of the title, it's spelled the word adjudicated. I just want to make sure we get that right.
Thank you.
I
Thank
made a reference to that earlier, I think.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I apologize.
Adjudicated. It says adjudicated.
All right, so Commissioner Watson has requested to be the representative of the elected representative on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Carrillo, seconded by Commissioner Diaz-Labortia. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say,
Aye.
you want public comment, Todd? You gave me that look, that's all. I feel like when I get the look, I'm forgetting something.
Yes, sir.
We'll open for public comment on our appointee to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. All in favor of the item say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Commissioner Watson. Moving on to SR 3, 4, 5, and 6. Is there any one of these that commissioners
Mr.
would like to
Chair?
take separately?
I would like to take SR6 separate. I
Okay.
think that the boundaries are too big,
Okay,
and I will make my statement, my objection later on after you. pass
understood.
everything else.
I'll separate SR 6. How about SR 3, 4, and 5?
So moved.
It's moved. Madam City Attorney, if you could read all 3 items into the record, please.
an ordinance of the Miami City Commission waiving the sidewalk cafe fees set forth in Chapter 54, Article 6, subsections 54-224B and D of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Streets and Sidewalks, Sidewalk Cafes, Fees and Security Deposits, specifically by waiving sidewalk cafe permits, fee permits addressed under Section 54-224B of the City Code, and the security deposit assessed under Section 54-224D of the City Code during the remainder of the novel corona pandemic, for which the state of local emergency was declared by Mayor Francis Suarez on March 12, 2020, until the termination of the city's COVID-19 restaurant recovery program as originally authorized by Resolution Number R200156, adopted on May 14, 2020, and subsequently extended by the City Commission, providing for a credit of those sidewalk cafe permit fees already paid during the pendency of the program to be credited to fiscal year 2021 and 22, providing for a sunset provision containing a severability clause and providing for an immediate effective date. SR4, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 10-4 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Buildings in General, Buildings Permit Fee Schedule, to add the plan review disciplines of building, zoning, planning, and resilience and public works to the fee schedule for joint plan review meetings, further to include said disciplines in the expedited overnight review of building plans containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date. SR5, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 4 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Buildings in General, Building Permit Fee Schedule, to amend the fee for work started without permits for non-homestead commercial properties containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date. SR6, are we reading also SR6?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There's been a motion. Is there a second on SR 3, 4, and 5? Second by Commissioner Carollo. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. That's SR 3, SR 4, and SR 5. Let's take up SR 6 on the intervenor status. Commissioner Reyes, you're recognized.
Yes, as I do understand, this will give intervening status anybody that lives a quarter-mile radius. Quarter-mile radius is 1,320 feet. That's close to 5 blocks, city blocks. And given the way that our city is the geography of our city, there are going to be cases or instances that people that they don't even live in the city of Miami will have the right for intervening status. For example, in Flagami, I can get some people that live in either in West Miami or Gables in the county. They could be granted intervening status. I think that we should reduce the radius to 500 feet, which I think it will be more than enough, and that's what the court always has been accepting. I mean, a quarter of a mile, it doesn't mean that I want to limit intervening status that much, but I think that it is too extensive. In other areas, let's say in a district, your district, you're going to have people from El Portal that could be, that's right, he will have the right for intervening status, you see? I think that the radius is a good idea, but the radius is too broad,
Understood.
too big.
Commissioner Carrillo?
Well, this makes sense to me because when we force neighbors to have to give notification when they want anything to be done with their properties, they have to give notice within 500 feet. So why should this be almost 3 times the amount? So 500 seems reasonable to me.
Yes.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, quick question. If we amend it to 500 feet, but can someone beyond 500 feet request intervenor status if they believe they have an effect greater than the general public.
No,
So it would completely exclude anyone beyond 500 feet.
correct.
I'm trying to think of a case where a very large development, an SAP, for example, can have an effect way beyond 500 feet. So I'm trying to not, I definitely don't want to create a massive blanket where anyone within a quarter mile,
Well, how about if it is such a status that the commission reserved the right to recognize anybody beyond the 500 feet and provide intervening status? We had that problem here with Magic City, remember?
yes,
That's right. We had that problem here with Magic City, and when we were discussing,
Well-
and we decided which one doesn't have automatic intervening status. But to grant intervening, I mean blanket intervening status to anybody that lives at 1,320 feet of the property, I think it will create a lot of problems, and it will give the right to people that don't even live in the city of Miami.
so it is very carefully worded, even with the quarter mile, that it doesn't grant everyone within a quarter mile the right to intervener status. It says, and I went through this with Barnaby, I was wrong, he was correct. A person shall be entitled to intervener status if the person owns property within a quarter mile radius from the subject property, but is not the property owner or abutting property owner, and has a particular interest in the application that is different in kind and degree than general public. Which means just because they're in the quarter mile, we may find that they do not have a greater grievance than the general
But-
public.
but-
So we can exclude them within the
But
quarter mile.
then we have to go through the process of excluding it.
Correct.
Why don't we go through the process of including it?
Madam City Attorney, could we word it in a way that if it were 500 feet, anyone within has the right to apply, but anyone beyond 500 feet through commission action can extend that radius as needed in that moment for that intervener request?
This is difficult when you don't have a definition for what an aggrieved party is. You don't, I mean, these
That's the
things are.
subjective issue.
So these are just, at the end of the day, if you want us to craft something different, I suggest that we reset it and we craft something
I
that.
think we're
you
close.
would-
I think we can pass it. I think we're close.
Right, I mean, these things, this is what ends up getting appealed.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the issues that end up getting appealed, and at the end of the day, it's more job security for me. I'm not complaining, but I'm just telling you, you really want to be able to craft this appropriately to make it say what you mean and what you want. Otherwise, you're going to end up with very cumbersome hearings with no criteria.
All right,
that will
I'm
be
fine with the
difficult.
500 amendment as is.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, if it is 500, I don't have any objection to this.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion moved by Commissioner Carollo, seconded by Commissioner Reyes.
Second.
And an amendment to change quarter mile to 500 feet. And that is a radius as the crow flies, correct? Madam City Attorney, the way it's defined?
When it's, normally we do it as a radius.
Yes, already.
Got it. Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Is there any further discussion on SR 6? Seeing none, all in favor say yes. Please read the ordinance into the record.
An ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 17, Article 1 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended titled Environmental Preservation, Tree Protection in General, Chapter 17, Article 2 of the City Code entitled Environmental Preservation Districts, and Chapter 23, Article 1 of the City Code titled Historic Preservation, more specifically by amending Chapter Section 17-2 titled Definitions, Section 17-8 titled Appeals, Appellate Fees, Section 1726 titled Definitions, Section 1731 titled Environmental Preservation Districts, Section 17-33 titled Removal of Trees and Development Activity within Environmental Preservation Districts, Section 17-40 titled Appeals, Section 23-2 titled Definitions, Section 23-4 titled Designation of Historic Resources, Historic Districts, Multiple Property Designations, and Archaeological Sites and Zones, Section 23-6 titled Transfer of Development Rights and Density for Historic Resources, Provision for Determination of Eligibility Process, and special provisions for resources within the Miami Modern Miami Biscayne Boulevard Historic District, prohibiting certain uses and establishing a 35-foot height limit, and Section 23-6.2, titled Certificates of Appropriateness, to specifically provide a definition for intervener and an opportunity for intervener status for certain public hearings related to environmental preservation and historic preservation matters, making findings containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. The ordinance has been read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes on SR 6. Thank you. F.
That was my only concern.
Yes, Commissioner?
That was my only objection to anything.
Thank you. FR1 is the mooring field. FR2 is Chapter 62. Is there a motion on those two items?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Carrillo, seconded by Commissioner Diaz-Portilla. Is there an amendment needed on FR2? No, okay. As is. Is there any further discussion on FR1 and FR2?
Yes, sir, there is. Cesar Garcia Ponce Planning Department for FR2. We are amending it to add some language to exempt homesteaded people against the pre-application fees.
Thank you. I read your mind. and
Yes, I
didn't-
appreciate it.
weren't
Thank you
even
so much,
thinking.
sir.
So who was the mover? I apologize.
Commissioner Carrillo.
Carrillo, do you accept the amendment? Thank you. Seconder?
Yes, sir.
All right, please read both ordinances FR1 and FR2 into the record, Madam City Attorney.
An ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending Chapter 50, Article 2, Division 1 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Ships, Vessels, and Waterways, Operation of Vessels Generally, by adding a new Section 50-43 titled Operation of Vessels, Boats, and Other Watercrafts in Marked Motorized Vessel Exclusion Zones in Dinner Key North Mooring Field area, to establish a vessel exclusion zone in the waters of Dinner Key North Mooring Field, to provide for safe areas for use by vessels under sail or shallow draft vessels operating electric engines only, authorizing the city manager to undertake and to execute the necessary applications with the various agencies of the United States of America, State of Florida, and the Miami-Dade County, to establish the proposed restricted area containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date. FR2, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 62 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Planning and Zoning, more particularly by amending Article 2, Section 62-12 of the City Code, titled Comprehensive Planning Fee for Inspections and Examinations of Plans for Compliance with the provisions of the City Zoning Ordinance and miscellaneous zoning fees, and Article 6 of the Section 62-22 of the City Code, titled Zoning and Planning Fees, Schedule of Fees, to provide for comprehensive planning updates, planning and zoning fees containing a severability clause, and providing an effective date as amended.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Before we get into the discussion items, let's make a pocket park, shall we, Commissioner Reyes? PZ 11 and PZ 12. Would you like to move that?
Yes, sir.
Moved by Commissioner Reyes, seconded by the chair. Is there any further discussion on PZs 11 and 12? That's the land use and rezoning of Southwest 26th Street for a pocket park. Hearing none, do we need to read the ordinance? Madam City Attorney.
Yes, Chairman. An ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 10544 as amended the future land use map of the Miami Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan pursuant to small-scale amendment procedures subject to Section 163-3187 Florida statutes by changing the future land use designation of .12 acres of real property from single-family residential to public parks and recreation of the property located at approximately 2201 Southwest 26th Street, Miami, Florida, as more particularly described in Exhibit A, making findings containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date. PZ 12, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending the zoning atlas of ordinance number 13114 as amended by changing the zoning classification from T3R suburban restricted to CS civic space of the property located at approximately 2201 Southwest 26th Street, Miami, Florida, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, making findings containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. That is FR1 and FR2. I'm sorry, PZ, sorry, I was on the,
11 and 12.
not enough coffee yet. Thank you. PZs 11 and 12, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Can I get the status of the fiscal year 21-22 proposed budgets, please?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Fernando Casamayor, Assistant City Manager. As you know, the books have closed for the month of January, which puts us about a third of the way through our fiscal year. Our overall revenues received year-to-date are about $4 million higher than they were at this point last year. However, we're still projecting a lower than budgeted number of about $66 million in revenues. Some of the revenues that we're watching very closely, it's mostly related to COVID-19, our fire rescue department, police, real estate and asset management, parks, communication service tax from the state of Florida, our parking surcharge, and our half-cent sales tax share, as well as interest earnings. Our expenditures, on the other hand, at this early time, we project that expenditures are going to be lower than budgeted by about $27.35 million. And we are monitoring a couple of departments to make sure that they stay within budget. One is our Innovation and Technology Department. They're projected to go over because of a labor settlement. And Department of Real Estate and Asset Management is projected to go over because of some required repairs at the James L. Knight Center. Overall, our projected revenues minus our expenses are currently trending towards a surplus of $12.6 million for the general fund. We are projecting a deficit of $46.8 million in the building reserve fund because we transferred $45 million out of it as part of the mid-year for the building facility. So overall, we should have an overall deficit of $34.2 million, but again, that's as a result of the transfer of the $45 million. These projections, we believe, are valid, but they're very preliminary, and this thing could change at any time, so we will continue to monitor and inform the Commission as soon as there are any changes. As for our new budget development, 21-22, our budget instructions have gone out to all of our departments, and we're working very closely with all of them to ensure that we prepare their initial budget needs. And with that, I'll take any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Casamayor? Thank you very much, sir. I would like to ask for a motion on the Parrot Jungle items. We have 5 items here. Some will need to be amended, but just to get the ball rolling for discussion, is there a motion on PZ 8, 9, 10, 15, and 16, moved by Commissioner Reyes, seconded by the chairs?
Chairman,
Yes.
would you like to take some of the discussion items since we're still working on the items?
I thought that you were ready on that.
No,
Need a little more time?
a little more time, please.
We've got, okay.
I think we have a couple of discussion items, no? They're all
We
done?
do. I was trying to get this in under, before that, if you're ready. How close are you? Fif- 15 minutes? All right, we can go into discussion items. All right. My apologies, I thought we were ready for that item. I know the law department and the applicant are working on a few details. So let's, yep, would you like to take up DI2 discussion item on the gift card program?
Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. William Porro, Department of Human Service. Good afternoon.
If you could walk us through of the full remaining dollars that are left,
Yes, sir.
and how many of those fall on which elected official?
Yes, sir. Right now, the good news is we were able to purchase 32,244 cards. We have scanned copies. In other words, the cards were given out for reimbursement purposes.
But hold on,
Sorry.
I'm not asking what
Okay.
you were willing to buy or not. I'm not sure if that's good news or bad news, depending on
My apologies, Commissioner.
what happens. What I'd like to know is, how many dollars
Understood.
each member of the commission has that was not used, and of course the mayor.
Unallocated, in other words, that has not been spent. Yes, sir.
That's correct.
360,388 for District 5 was left over,
And we took care of that the last time we discussed this.
okay?
Okay.
District 3, yourself, sir, was 99,375. District 2 is 279,313. And the mayor doesn't have anything left.
He doesn't have any remaining?
No, sir, he doesn't have anything.
Okay, well, from what was sent to me, seemed, well, maybe not, but, okay, who else has got some money left?
That's it, sir.
Can you go from the top? Let's start with D1.
Yes, sir.
D2,
D1.
D3, D4, D5,
190,800.
okay?
D2, that's D1, my apologies. 190,800.
Okay,
D2, 279,313.
right,
Yourself, sir, 99,375.
right.
And District 5, 360,388, for a total of 372,700.
D4 had nothing.
Sir?
D4 had nothing.
D4 had nothing, sir. Yes, sir. They
Can I
spent
clarify
everything.
something? Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I want to clarify this. These are funds that were allocated for gift cards, but they were not purchased.
That's correct, unused. That's
Okay.
correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, because I wanna, you see, that make clear that this is funds that were allocated to those districts, to every district, but they were not purchased and distributed. And as a matter of fact, they were not purchased.
They were not purchased. That's
They
correct. It
were
was
not
unused,
purchased.
unused funds.
That's why you have a surplus on those districts, because all the cars were not purchased.
That is correct.
Okay. I wanted to clarify that because I didn't want any confusion.
All right, where's the chairman at?
Chairman.
Yeah. No, we're just starting. I got into the record what was left that was not bought in cards for each district. Now, can you read to us which was the application for City of Miami Grocery Gift Cards Program that was approved in some form by this commission when we made a resolution? What do we ask to be included besides whatever else staff wanted in the application?
Sir, if I understand your question, is you want to know the amount of scanned copies that we...
No,
No?
I'm not even there yet.
Okay.
I'm asking the application form that the city gave to each elected official to use.
Yes, sir.
At least there were some areas in this form that were based upon resolution, in other words, instructions from this body for the administration to include in the application forms that were to be filled, correct?
There was only one form that was...
Right,
That's correct.
one form.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember? If not, the clerk can pull the minutes, or someone else can do it. What were the requirements or the main requirement that this commission discussed and instructed the administration to place upon the form that we were to give and was to be filled out by each person receiving a card?
They had to be a City of Miami resident. They had to have had an impact of COVID. I'm going by memory, and obviously they have to sign it. Then the card number was placed by staff on that form. Some would put the type of card or the denomination of the card, and that was pretty much it.
They have to have their names, correct?
Oh, absolutely, sir, yes.
They have to
that's right,
have their
yes.
address, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And phone number, by the way, as well, yes.
And you're forgetting one area that Commissioner Diaz-Libertia touched upon a few items back of how important it is that we stated that we wanted that and we needed that to be included, and that was part of our instructions to the administration to include the state wording on what is a sworn affidavit. You remember that?
I do, sir, yes.
Okay? And is this what the forms had as far as a sworn affidavit? Pursuant to Florida statute 92.525, under penalty of perjury, I declare that I have read the foregoing and that the facts stated in it are true.
I don't remember that particular statement, sir, but if you're reading it from the affidavit,
Here-
I know that there was another, if I may, there was another version. No, I believe you, sir.
Here's a couple that were done, if you want to come and see them, so that could refresh your memory more. These were the ones that the administration sent to us that included many of our requests and instructions that were used.
Yes, they look like the ones, yes, sir.
Mr. Assistant City Manager, since you were involved in that process, I think you were the assistant manager involved in the process. Could you look at these and see if these are the ones that you gave with the sworn statement?
Yes, sir. Those are copies of what was sent to all of the offices, and those were some of the applications that were utilized by each of your district offices.
All right? If I could get those back?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, before I go back to these, without even getting into how much money everyone had or didn't have or spent or did spend, we got from you the amount of dollars that were left, minus D5 that we dealt with it the last time that we brought this up. Based upon the information that you had given us, even more so, I go back to my original motion that I had back then, that we divide the remaining dollars into 4 districts.
Okay. Right.
And if anybody would like to question why or second it for any purpose, we could begin there.
You need an action?
I'm saying that I'm making a motion that, as we stated the last time, that the remaining dollars would be divided into the 4 districts equally. Maybe I'm being even more gracious than I should.
Yes, you are.
But I'm also going to make a motion after this that this whole process be sent to our Inspector General. Don't have to be a motion, any one of us could send anything, but I want the Inspector General to go through this carefully and make sufficient phone calls on the numbers that they have on all the cards, on all of us equally, to double check that everyone that signed that got a card did get a card. I think that this process, with the amount of dollars that were here, needs to be with full transparency, that no one can question any one of us on it.
I second that.
So that would be done through our auditor.
That's correct.
Thank you. So on both items, and can these, if these can be captured in one motion and second?
It could,
Because
yes.
this would be a motion directing to divide equally amongst the four remaining districts.
Yeah.
With District 5, how would you calculate District 5?
District 5, we took care of it last time around.
Got it.
It has
So
a
the
different-
remaining
different
funds
problem that we have.
to be distributed equally amongst the four remaining districts.
Yeah.
And for the auditor to initiate a spot check investigation
Yes.
on, and I mean, this is a lot, so do you know how deep you'd like him to go in terms of checking these?
A full investigation, I would
He
like.
should do what he would do in any serious audit, and if he needs to go further, he should come back to us.
All right, so we'll leave it in his discretion for what sample size would give him a good indication
That's correct.
that there are,
Yes.
all right, there is,
Obviously, if everything that he's doing in a certain sample amount, it's fine. He probably won't need to go any further on those. If he finds that there are some problems with a sample, he might need then to go into more. And then he might need to go into it deeper to find out why there were problems.
thank you. There's been a motion, there's been a second. I'd like to open for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment with regard to the distribution of grocery cards? And question from my part, and we've discussed this offline, and we did mention in the last meeting, there is flexibility within the allocation on how it can be spent, correct? If we
There's two
choose-
particular reasons for the, and
Yes, there is flexibility as long as you use one of the two programs that were approved by the county. So it's either the gift card program or
Yes.
the business assistance program that was already approved.
Yes, for my part, and I'm going to work together with
And-
my team on this to make sure,
And can I also just for clarity's sake, would you like us to include the $12,118.61 that was left over from the business grant
Absolutely.
program?
Yes.
move
Part
and
of this
seconder?
allocation?
Okay.
Yeah, that
So
should
the
be part of the
total,
motion.
the total that we would be allocating is 748,743.61,
Got it.
which is the total balance left.
Now, I may be using my portion for small business assistance. Do I need any sort of amendment to change the parameters
Nope.
on the qualification
Nope.
number?
No, sir, and we'll work with you to make sure that we set whatever program you like and make sure that it meets the guidelines that were approved by the county back in October when these were.
Got it, because we set guidelines at this board, I believe.
Yes.
So for me to change those guidelines, I do not need a motion of this board.
If you would like to have any additional or less restrictive guidelines that this board set in place, I believe you'd have to come back and get that as a vote.
That's what I'm asking right now, because
I'm going to defer to the city attorney, but yes, I believe
I'd
that
like,
you would need to do
and,
so.
and what I found is there's many businesses in my district, even mom and pop businesses that may have two locations, and they're already at the $2 or $3 million in revenue. Now, gross revenue at even $3 million is not very much if you're spending 80% of that in overhead costs and product materials. Let's say you just have a 20% margin. So I would like to be able to approach some businesses that were not able to qualify.
I agree with you, and I was going to suggest that we use this for business assistance.
I think each can do as they wish.
That's right.
Could do as
For
the
their
wish.
district.
As we wish, but before you brought it up, I was thinking about that. And I think that we all should have the flexibility, you see, of use it as
There is.
we see that it will benefit the most, you see, if it is businesses or individuals. But I'm looking into the possibility of, and I want to talk to the administration, what procedure, if we're going to go, if I want to use mine on business, real small businesses, business assistants, what procedures should undertake, so it will be legal, and it will, I mean, we will have accountability.
So if you like, we can follow up next week, if you like.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
schedule
I
meetings
want-
with
I
Mr.
wanted
Porro
to-
and Mr. Mensa.
If we go that route, but I think that we should have the alternative.
I'd like to
Yeah.
establish the flexibility here today if we can. So what do you need from us in terms of an
Well,
action?
just make that part of the motion, that's all.
Yeah, so you've given us the amount,
Yes.
the percentage that we need to divide by, and then just add the flexibility of, whether it's either the grocery gift card or the business
Or-
assistance
that's
grant
right.
program.
But that the qualification numbers, for example, could qualify a business that is as high as 3 million in gross revenue. Got it.
fine.
All right. There's been a motion, there's been a second. Is there anyone here for public comment on the item?
Chair, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I didn't catch the seconder.
Who was the seconder?
I second it.
Okay. Commissioner Reyes, thank you. Closing public comment. All in favor of the item, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Before we go, just to let you know, give you an update, I just asked my friends at the county, and they're still working on the interlocal amendment, so hopefully
Okay.
we'll get something.
But I'm not done with this item yet, and I'm glad you brought that up. When do you think they might have the finalized amendment so that we could start using this remaining monies?
I mean, I believe we can start using the money already, but we just don't have the signed interlocal with them yet. So again, if we are spending it now, we could possibly put ourselves at risk for not getting reimbursed. However, I believe it's just waiting for a signature in the county administration somewhere.
I would strongly recommend that the way things are with the county these days, that we have it all signed, sealed, and delivered before we take any actions.
Noted.
That's my feelings anyway. The administration could do as they see fit. Now, let me go back, since we got that motion out of the way. Let me begin with me. District 3. Based upon what we handed in and we were going through, the information that my staff provided me, our applications show that we assigned 78 more cards than were issued to us. But that's because some people never came to pick up cards, and we then reissued them. The current number of remaining cards that were not assigned, as my office tells me that we have, is actually 23. And because of what I stated, your number, well, we actually had a total of 133 applications where more than one card was issued. When we first started, we had allocated up to $250. Then, when monies were shifted, we stated that we would go up to $350. And we had 133 applications, apparently, that we included more than one card in them. And that's why in the numbers that you had, it doesn't show that you just counted pieces of paper. But I want the Auditor General to look at what we have. In fact, they can begin with me. The biggest problem that I have here is the following.
Don't get angry.
You break it, you pay it for it.
All right, we'll go to the city attorney's office.
Yeah. We heard both the assistant city manager in charge of the card program. We heard the director in charge of the card program. that upon this commission's instructions, one of the key requirements was, besides many that we gave, that they also had to sign at the end, that pursuant to Florida statutes, under penalty of perjury, I declare that I have read the foregoing and that the facts stated in it are true, and the signature of the applicant. Reason we had stated originally that we needed this and that was important was because that's what state statute requires. State statute requires that in the Florida Supreme Court in, I believe it was 1999-2000 opinion stated that you no longer need a notary public if you sign yourself under that wording, and if you're not truthful, then you committed perjury. So that's why we wanted that there at the time. Where I have a problem is that from what I've been given, and I'm seeing this, that one of us decided that we were going to do our own form, and that form only had the name of the person, the signature of the person with the date, the number of the card, a signature of an employee from the city that had done the process from the individual's office, I'm assuming, and that was it. No sworn statement, no address, no telephone number, and none of us, and particularly when we all voted in a resolution requesting and instructing the administration that this is what we wanted in a form that was going to be used, none of us had the right to do whatever we wanted and to do something in this sort, where the only thing you have is a name from someone and you don't have an address that matches to that person, and you don't have a phone number that matches to that person. How do we verify who the person is? Where do they live at? How do we reach them? So, can any of you figure that out? If you don't have an address,
No,
if you don't have a telephone number,
it'd be difficult, absolutely,
extremely difficult.
of course.
And all that is not under a sworn affidavit like we requested. Now, did the administration approve this?
No, sir. At least I did not, so, no.
Now, what concerns me even more, who the heck was responsible for going through these and making sure that at the very least we were following the format that the administration gave each of us based upon what we requested of you to do?
Commissioner, what I sent out to everybody and trained everybody on, all staff, was what the commission approved and directed.
But didn't anybody see this at any point when they were being given?
No, sir.
In other words, you guys just scanned this, threw them in a box, and you didn't bother to see anything else?
It was 32,000 plus copies. No, I did not
Well,
go through each
if-
box, but that was, actually, it was the reimbursement entity who acknowledged that there were 2 boxes that they went through that did not have any signatures. And that's where that form,
Well, I haven't even gone there, but
Okay.
on this one here, from what I'm seeing, there's 8,599, I believe, in this fashion. So
that's That's correct, sir.
Anyway, that's what I wanted to get on the record, and this is why I have a great concern. And I certainly want to be as transparent as we can, because the last thing that I am going to not do is to bring forth a system that was not followed. I insisted on all my people that we had to follow the process. And I'll tell you, it was even more difficult because at that same time, we were handing out some 40-pound bags of food and 2 pork shoulders. And then we were taking out and filling out forms also. Now, I know all of us were under extreme stress because the county gave us very limited time to do this.
Yes, sir.
But there's no excuse for this. This looks horrible. I don't know if we could ever figure out how many of these people really got these cards or not. And the sad part is that all of us are going to be painted with the same brush. So I'm really surprised at the administration. I heard the excuse you gave me. I don't buy it. I'm going to say this to you. Whether it's me, whether it's any one of us, the mayor, none of us is a prince, a king, a Saudi sheikh that is above the law. All of us put our pants every morning the same way, our shoes the same way. We're all as equal as the poorest resident that we have in our city. And you cannot allow a process not to be followed just because it's an elected official that decides not to follow and do as they please. Shame on all of you for letting this happen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is that it for DI 2?
Commissioner, is that big part of the investigation from that we are giving?
The auditor?
Excuse me?
Is this going to be the use of that should be a part of the investigation? Why? And if it had any negative effect?
The auditor should look at anything that he thinks he should look at, including that, having to do with these cards.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Correa, the remaining discussion items are yours, DI 3, 4, and 5. How would you like to proceed?
Okay.
Homelessness, land
DI
acquisition.
3, let me say this in the record, finally, I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel. There has been work and a difference made in my district. I'm not going to speak for any of you, but I'm seeing some positive signs within my district. There still needs to be more work to be done.
Yep.
And a lot more work, but there's movement.
You're talking with regard to homelessness?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'll bring this up at the next meeting so the manager could give us a report when we meet again.
Motion to defer DI 3.
And the report that I'd like is for the manager to go district by district, what we have found and seen.
Yes, sir.
Motion to defer DI 3 to March 11th, correct?
Yes, please.
Moved by Commissioner Reyes, seconded by Commissioner Carollo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
DI 4 and DI 5, we're going to carry them into the next meeting. We might have to change the wording, but the manager assures me he will be ready for the next meeting. on at least a good portion of this. Again, I plead with each of you that if you don't have land that you have identified in your district, to please identify land that could be purchased for affordable housing to own. So,
Motion to defer DI-4 and DI-5 to March 11th. Moved by Commissioner Reyes, seconded by Commissioner Diaz-Portilla. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Aye.
Before we had gone into discussion items, Commissioner Reyes was making a motion on PZ, the remaining PZ items, PZ 8, 9, 10, 15, and 16. It was seconded by the chair. I believe we may have some amendments to address. For my part, Mr. Manager, and perhaps the applicant can address the issue that's been brought up by residents with regard to boat safety in the area. This is something that Mr. Crowley probably knows a lot about, actually. But I'd like to make sure, because I believe PZ 10, if there's any place to memorialize any changes that need to be made to make sure there's boat safety in the channel and near Jungle Island and the club, that we implement that now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Spencer Crowley, 98 Southeast 7th Street for the record. We were watching the public comment earlier and just want to raise a couple of points. First of all, if you look at the NOAA chart for this area, it's 11468 entitled Miami Harbor. And I have excerpts of this here that I can pass out. But you'll see that there's no marked channel in the area between Watson Island and Biscayne Island. So I understand there's concerns about boats in the waterway, but it's really not a navigable channel. Also, Florida statutes prohibits local governments from regulating navigation, anchorage in the waterways, except under very, very limited circumstances. The City of Miami has the ability to initiate a process, a statutory process, that must be ratified by the FWC. But we can't, the city can't even unilaterally enact regulations like that. Now, we've supported in a letter that we sent to the police chief, the city's efforts to enact such a boating safety zone in that area. The City of Miami Beach recently established a similar boating safety zone for Monument Island, just to the east of us. And we would support and participate and cooperate in any efforts to do something like that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Crowley, what did you call it, a safety zone?
Boating safety zone or boating restricted zone. So if you look in Florida statutes 327.46, that will give you the very specific procedures that need to be followed in order to enact these restricted zones.
So, and
we're certainly happy to help and participate.
Yeah.
It's not something we could do. It's not something the city could do on its own. It has to go to FWC and be ratified.
well, as far as enforcing in the channel, there's no mooring in the channel, correct? Just
Well, there is no channel.
Oh, I thought this was, there was a navigable channel. in
No,
this.
sorry. When you were talking over there, I explained that we pulled the NOAA chart for this area. It's entitled Miami Harbor. The number is 11468, and there is no marked channel in between Biscayne Island and Watson Island.
So for lack of that, mooring is allowed there.
Yes, legally it is, and legally there's restrictions against prohibiting anchorage in that area.
Now, I believe we've just
I
established
can,
recently a mooring field to the east of
yes,
this
just to
area.
the east and south, right, just to the east of Watson Island.
Would that mooring field be available for transitory mooring?
Yes, of course.
Or do we have them, maybe this might be a question for DREAM, the Real Estate Asset Management Department, or are we locking all of them up for medium-term?
No, my understanding is those mooring balls are available for short-term.
On a daily basis, a few hours? And are those close enough that the tenders could access any boats that moored over there to
Yes.
come to Joya?
Yeah. Let me,
So what I'm trying to do is establish a pattern, and maybe we memorialize it in the management agreement or the development agreement, that creates a process at which boats can visit their establishment in a organized fashion that's convenient for your customers, but safe for that area in front. So do you have any recommendations
Right,
as
but-
the Real Estate Asset Management Department or as the applicant that can help address this?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is the state law prohibits the city from regulating anchorage unless you do these boating restricted zones. So
Right.
anybody can go and anchor in that area, and there's really, unfortunately, nothing that we can do about it.
There's not a seagrass issue or anything like that. So, but where I'm heading is, if our established mooring field actually is quite convenient and conducive to safe anchorage where a tender can then bring your customers, I would like to initiate a process where we start utilizing that, encouraging your customers to utilize that, and then perhaps apply for an exclusionary zone within that area in front. So it doesn't become a congregating zone without any organization.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be happy to work with Dream and try to set aside some of those mooring balls in the northwest corner so that those could be available for transitory usage on a, daily basis, hourly basis, and, have people directed to try to use those.
Now, would it be best to do those as designated mooring balls for their customers and that they would then cover, or each customer as they come would moor up and?
We
work
would
with this?
like to keep it open for, I'm sorry, Mark Burns, Department of Real Estate and Asset Management. We would like to keep it open to all comers.
Got it, but you believe the capacity is there, that we won't have a situation where boats can't find a mooring ball and they just start mooring anywhere they want?
Well, that depends on how many boats want to come.
Yeah, well, there's 100 mooring balls in the mooring field.
Yes.
But, anybody can anchor in that area, in that waterway, in between Biscayne Island and Watson Island. Legally, they can do that. Legally, there's no way for the city to prevent that unless we do one of these restricted zones. So even if you're not going to Jungle Island, if you're just out in the boat, you want to have a picnic with your family, you can drive over there in your boat, drop anchor, and that's totally legal.
Yes.
And there's nothing anybody of us,
Yes,
can really do
yeah.
to restrict that.
Is Eli here today? I don't see him.
Who?
Eli?
Oh, yes.
Yes, sir, he's here.
Can you come up? First of all, I want to congratulate
Good
you
afternoon.
for doing what's right and having paid the city the monies that were owed to us and we requested.
Keeping his word.
Thank you.
So I, thank you for that. Secondly of all, I didn't return your calls, not because I wanted to be discourteous. Simply, I've just had more on my plate than I could juggle.
No problem.
So just want to say that. Lastly, I unfortunately have to go. It's something that I have no choice on. And unless my vote is needed to pass this, then if it's not needed, then I will leave. And
This could go rather quickly, Commissioner, if you've got a few minutes.
if I
You're
could
on-
say 5 minutes, we could be done. And
Thank you.
So just in summation, I would like to direct an amendment to the development agreement that establishes a process for utilizing the mooring field and a cooperative process between the city and Jungle Island in applying for a safety zone.
The city has to apply.
The city will apply.
We will cooperate,
That's
the
what I
city
meant.
will apply, right.
Thank you very much. And I knew you would know a lot about this as our
One of the few
as our
things I know
fine
a lot
commissioner.
about, yep.
Thank you very much. And beyond that, I believe there's some amendments in the development agreement with regard to indemnity.
Right, if I could just run through real quick. So on Tuesday, the 23rd, at 10:58 in the morning, we submitted a development agreement that had several clarifications in it. And I can run through, there's 8 of them. All of them have been agreed to with staff in the attorney's office. The one that we were working on up until just a few moments ago relates to indemnification. I believe, and Barnaby can correct me, that we've agreed on an indemnification provision It will be as I transmitted to him roughly 30, 45 minutes ago, with the addition of one clause, which I'd like to read into the record.
Barnaby, are you familiar with the clause?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
City owns the property and ESJ is developing the property. And as such, the city and ESJ are partners in the Jungle Island SAP and will partner to defend any challenge or cause of action to the Jungle Island SAP and development agreement, with each covering its own costs and attorney's fees.
Thank you,
And
Barnaby.
so that provision with the others that we clarified should do it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your assistance
Mr.
during this process,
City Attorney,
everyone.
is the city satisfied with the indemnity agreement between us and them?
Yes, sir. As I've stated in briefings, obviously the goal, what would be best for the city is a full indemnification by ESJ of the city. However, they've raised some concerns and, in an attempt to cooperate and negotiate. I believe Mr. Crowley's suggestion is reasonable. Of course, it's up to the commission whether or not the body wants to accept that.
I am familiar with the differences of where there was a difference of opinion, but I believe, I understand there's been a meeting of the minds. And I am comfortable with the changes that you most recently mentioned to me in terms of indemnity.
Thank you.
So has that been, have you memorialized that in any sort of substitution document or amendment?
Not yet. The development agreement that Mr. Crowley sent on Tuesday needs to be added into the record as a substitution. I don't know if you have a copy, Mr. Crowley, that we can give to the clerk. And then the additional language that he read into the record concerning the indemnification that was caught in the record, so that would be sufficient.
Thank you. Can that be entered?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are there any other amendments that need to be made to any of these items, PZs 8, 9, 10, 15, and 16?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, you're recognized, Commissioner Watson.
on PZ 10, I just want to make sure that it's read into the record that the local job preference agreement is included with the advertisement of a couple job fairs that will go along with that. And that should be the only amendment that we have for PZ 10.
Is that necessary in an amendment, or is that already established in the agreement?
I don't know if it's already established.
If it is an amendment, I will second it.
I would, Mr. Chair?
We brought that up at the last,
I had asked,
yeah, we brought that up at the last hearing, and it was put in already in the agenda.
Yes.
If I can.
Thank you, Mr.
Local labor.
Exactly.
Mr. Chair,
Right.
just so the record is clear, Section 14 of the development agreement currently states, ESG will prioritize hiring for zip codes in the city and will work through city commission offices and career source to help identify qualified applicants for positions during construction, with the goal of hiring 25% of the workforce from the city's zip codes. Qualified city residents will receive first priority for hiring both during and after construction of the Jungle Island Hotel.
Is that satisfactory, Commissioner Watson?
Yes, sir.
And I just want to make sure we're doing 2 job fairs, not 1 job fair. So we'll state that on the record and commit to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the items?
No.
Do we need to read them into the record? Which items need to be read into the record, Mr. Clerk?
All of them.
Every single one of them, 8, 9, 10. Well, Barnaby's much faster than Victoria, so this shouldn't take long at all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Practically an auctioneer.
PZ8 is ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending ordinance number 10544 as amended, the future land use map, the Miami Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan pursuant to small-scale amendment procedure subject to section 163.3187 Florida statutes. By changing the future land use designation from public parks and recreation to restricted commercial of the 5.38 plus or minus acres described herein of real property located at approximately 1111 Parajungle Trail, Miami, Florida, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated, making findings containing a several clause providing for an effective date. PZ9 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments approving with conditions pursuant to Articles 3 and 7 ordinance number 131 and 4. The zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida is amended, the rezoning of certain parcels for the development of approximately 18.61 acres for the Jungle Island Special Area Plan located at approximately 1111 Parajungle Trail and 1111 MacArthur Causeway, Miami, Florida, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated. The SAP consists of a transit zone change from CS Civic Space Transit Zone to T612O Urban Core Open Transit Zone. For the southeasterly 234,310 square feet of the property, the SAP will modify the transit zone regulations that are applicable to the subject property, and where the regulations are not specifically modified by the SAP, the regulations and restrictions of the Miami 20 Code will apply. Approving a new hotel with up to 300 rooms, the SAP shall contain a minimum of 40,540 square feet of an approved civic space type, making findings containing a separate clause and providing for an effective date. PZ 10 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments approving a development agreement pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes between ESJ, JI Leasehold LLC and the City of Miami to govern the Jungle Island Special Area Plan comprised of approximately 18.61 acres of property located at approximately 1111 Parrot Jungle Trail and 1111 MacArthur Causeway, Miami, Florida, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached incorporated for the purpose of redevelopment of such lands for hotel and attractions, authorizing the following uses, included but not limited to commercial, lodging, civic, educational, and civil support, and any other uses authorized by the SAP. Specifically providing for the SAP to consist of approximately 300 lodging units, 500 parking spaces, and new attractions. The SAP development shall not exceed 300 lodging units and shall contain a minimum of 40,540 square feet of civic space, authorizing the city manager to execute the development agreement in substantially attached form, Exhibit B, attached incorporated for said purpose, containing a separate clause and providing for effective date. PZ 10 will be the one that's amended. Do you want the companion Hobie Beach items to be read, sir?
Yes, please.
All right, PZ 15 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending ordinance number 10544 as amended. The future land use map of the Miami Conference and Neighborhood Plan pursuant to small-scale amendment procedures subject to section 163.3187 Florida statutes by changing the future land use designation from undesignated to public parks and recreation of approximately 9 acres, described herein. Real property located at approximately 3301 Rickenbacker Causeway, Miami, Florida, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated, making findings containing several clauses provided for an effective date. PZ 16 is an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending the zoning atlas of ordinance number 13114, the zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida, is amended by changing the zoning classification from undesignated CS civic space, approximately 9 acres of real property generally located at 3301 Rickenbacker Causeway, Miami, Florida, as more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached and incorporated, making findings containing several clauses and providing for an effective date. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. There's been a motion, there's been a second.
And just for the record, it's clear, the mover accepted all the amendments, correct? That's Commissioner Reyes.
Yes, as did the seconder. All in favor of the item, say aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, ESJ and Jungle Island.
Appreciate your support.
Thank you very much.
Chair, for the record, I have that as 4-0. I don't see Commissioner Watson, nor can I hear him, so it's going to be 4-0 with him absent.
Just let's see if he's able to, he looked like he was having a rough time there for a moment. Commissioner Watson, are you there? I'd like to memorialize his vote if he's able to get in touch with you here and let you know what, no? He's got to be on? He was on. Gentlemen, this is the end of our meeting. We have, I tried to get you out of here by 6 o'clock, but I'm a little bit late.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Min.
Yes, while you pack up, I do need to announce 2 shade meetings if I can.
Which shade meeting would you like to read?
It'd be for the West Flagler case that's going to come back on March 11th.
Would you like to reestablish one of them or both of them?
It's a combined shade meeting, but we're also going to call for one on Chalks Airlines.
On?
Chalks Airlines. It's another separate litigation matter.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and read all 3, please. And if Commissioner Watson does come back in, we will not count his vote. Todd is not, he's giving me that look again. All right. It is a 4-0 vote. Commissioner Watson, if you can hear us, thank you for toughing the day out. I know you're having a rough one. Please take care. So the item passes. Oh, there he is. Can we memorialize you as a yes or no vote on this item?
Yes.
It is a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Please take care, Commissioner.
Jeffrey, take care of yourself, okay?
And thank you for joining us today.
I'll be in touch, man. Take care.
Okay.
Take care of yourself, man.
All right.
Thank you.
And as soon as...
Hey, listen, go see the doctor, okay?
As soon as Mr. Min is done reading the shade meeting announcements, we will be adjourned.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Chairman.
much, everyone.
Mr. Chairman and members of the City Commission, pursuant to provisions of Section 286.011, subsection 8 of Florida statutes, the City Attorney is requesting at the City Commission meeting of March 11, 2021, attorney-client session closed to the public be held for the purpose of discussing the pending litigation in the matters of Chalks Airline, Inc. versus City of Miami, case number 17-23207-CA-01, and Chalks Airline, Inc. versus and Nautilus Enterprises LLC versus Miami Sports and Exposition Authority and City of Miami, case number 18-30887-CA-01, both pending in Miami-Dade Circuit Court, to which the city is presently a party. The subject of the meeting will be confined to settlement negotiations and strategy discussions related to litigation expenditures. This private meeting will begin approximately 10 a.m. or soon thereafter as the Commissioner schedule permit and conclude approximately 1 hour later. The session will be attended by members of the City Commission, which include Vice Chairman Ken Russell and Commissioners Alex Diaz de la Portilla, Joe Croy, Manolo Reyes, and Jeffrey Watson. City Manager Art Noriega, City Attorney Victoria Mendez, Deputy City Attorneys John Gruck and Barnaby Min, Senior Assistant City Attorneys Christopher Green, George Weissong, and Kerry McNulty. Certified court reporter will be present to ensure the session is fully transcribed and transcript will be made public upon conclusion of the litigation. At the conclusion of the attorney-client session, the regular commission meeting will be reopened. The person chairing the commission meeting will announce the termination of the attorney-client session. Additionally, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Commission, pursuant to the provisions of Section 286.011, Section 8 Florida statutes, the city attorney is requesting that the city commission meeting of March 11, 2021, an attorney-client session closed to the public be held for the purpose of discussing the pending litigation of the matters of Ernesto Cuesta et al. versus City of Miami West Flagler Associates Limited, case number 20-00698, CA 43, pending in Miami-Dade Circuit Court, City of Miami versus Ernesto Cuesta et al., case number 3B21-532, pending the Florida Third District Court of Appeal, and West Flagler Associates Limited versus the City of Miami, case number 19-CB-21670, RNS, pending the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida, to which the city's president party. The subject of the meeting will be confined to settlement negotiations and strategy discussions related to litigation expenditures. This private meeting will begin approximately 10 a.m. or soon thereafter, as the commissioner's schedule permit, and conclude approximately 1 hour later. The session will be attended by the members of the City Commission, which includes Vice Chairman Ken Russell, Commissioners Alex Diaz-Portilla, Joe Corroy, Manuel Reyes, and Jeffrey Watson, City Manager Art Noriega, and Attorney Raquel Rodriguez. The certified court reporter will be present to ensure the session is fully transcribed and the transcript may be public upon the conclusion of the litigation. At the conclusion of the attorney-client session, the regular commission meeting will reopen. The person chairing the commission meeting will announce the termination of the attorney-client session. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, we're good. All done? We are adjourned. Thank you.